When you are turning your car, your outside wheels got to go further than your inside wheels. And because each path is a different length and each vehicle has the ability to rotate at different speed, when I say differentials, I'm not talking about how we people are different and unique and that's what makes us more beautiful. I'm talking about a little gear train inside what we call a differential. The technology of differential dates back to 1,000 years, to sometime between 1800 BC and 70 BC. No one actually knows who invented them. So in 1876, James Turley of Figueroa invented a chain of drive differential for use on his bicycle. And the following year in 1887, David Shear used the differential in his Australian steam car. And years later in 1932, Peugeot used the first limited slip differential. But enough about how these folks invented modern differentials. Turning it a little tricky if your drive wheels, for example, your rear wheels are on one axle, they can't rotate at different speed because they are attached. So when you turn, your car explodes. Oh, well, not really. It's just super inefficient. It's not going to handle well, and it's gonna stutter and scatter everywhere. So here's an example that we can all relate to. You know how we were all in those marching bands, or even we've seen marching bands do cool formation at halftime shows, or we used to bully the nerd in high school but then magically switched bodies with them. So we had to learn the bad culture while they learned being joke wasn't all it was cracked up to be. Well, all these gigs are shoulder to shoulder and they are doing a great turn, and the bad person closest to the axis is just turning barely, lifting their feet tiny steps, while the bad people on the outside are really taking big strides. That's like a car. On a sharp turn, the inside wheels should be able to take baby steps, while the outside wheel need to take those big strides so that they can hit that tuber sole. The non-drive wheel, they do not have a problem with any of this because they are not connected to one axle and they are just free to move on their own. But the drive wheels, they need to be connected, otherwise your car is a one-wheel drive. But the wheels on the axle also have to be allowed to move somehow independently, like a car bar. So relax. That's what differential are for. You know what else is like differential? Well, subscribing to our YouTube channel. Do it now. So, inside a differential, we've got this pinion gear. The pinion gear is attached to a drive shaft and it turns this ring gear. The ring gear causes anyone that watches it to receive a weird phone call and then die 7 days later. So this ring gear is connected to a spider gear that rotates while the ring gear but also can turn on its own axis. The spider gear has meshed with the two side gears and the two side gears become two axles. So when a vehicle is going straight, the spider gear and the side gears and the axles, they move together as one solid unit. But when the vehicle makes a turn, the spider gear rotates on its axis and the side gears can move at different RPMs. A lot of times, there will be a second spider gear to handle the additional load, and especially in heavy-duty cars or vehicles, you might have even 4 spider gears. Now, while we are looking at an open differential, I want to show you this, that pinion gear is much smaller than ring gear, which is much larger. So, they turn at different speeds. This ratio is called an axle ratio and sometimes called the final drive ratio. So, for the final drive ratio, it directly affects your car's acceleration and top speed too. For instance, at higher final drive ratio, like torque of 4:1, it will give you a good acceleration but a lower top speed. And in a lower final drive ratio, torque of 3:1, it will give you a higher top speed but probably zero acceleration. And the gear ratio that we are talking about is the number of teeth on the driven gear divided by the number of teeth on the drive gear. Now, the differential I just described is called an open differential. And an open differential is a great cause. It's inexpensive, it's lightweight, it requires little maintenance, just like me. But unlike me, it has some drawbacks. If you're driving in a situation where one of your rear wheels loses traction, Like if you are on a ice, gravel, or in a slick patch of baby oil, engine power is always going to follow the patch with the least resistance. So if one of the wheel has a different traction from the other, most of the engine power is gonna go to the wheel with the least traction, and that will bring up a slip. So your car will simply slip on the road. And the only way to fix this is using a limited slip differential. So let's look at what a limited slip differential is. So a limited slip differential, they are a great way to limit the loss of traction. They are used to limit the number of independence between the two axles, so that the amount of power sent to the wheel with the least traction is limited, and the wheel with the most traction will receive continuous power in order to get the vehicle moving. When it comes to limited slip differential, there are several kinds. Talk of the geared, the clutch operated, the vicious, coupling, and finally the electronic. And then with these four major methods, there are other areas like wheel speed monitoring, there's a torque vectoring. But for right now, let's just talk about the clutch-based system. So clutch type LSDs are probably the most popular. In this, the major gears sit between a pair of pressure rings, and the pressure rings are fitted to the outer casing, and the side gears are fitted into the rings. So here, a pair of clutch packs make up the friction disc, and steer plates are then fitted on both sides of the pressure rings. So it's in the clutch packs which are fitted together a lot like sinking rings, for instance, like in our old transmission cars, and the clutch pack should be pressed together at this point, and the friction force is going to make it move like one solid unit, turning as one axle as the car moves forward. But if one wheel loses traction on the patch of icy baby oil, the engine power going to it will meet with the resistance from the clutch pack as it tries to move as one unit. It's going to divert the energy to the drive wheel for more traction, and that's basically what a clutch back LSD is for. So for Toyotas, they got a unique auto LSD system that uses an open differential, but it applies brakes automatically to the wheel that has the least traction, creating resistance to make the wheel with the traction, the wheel with the less resistant. That is pretty sneaky ferrous. Another way of solving the problem from the open differential is within locking differential. This is particularly useful for off-road vehicles where you can expect one wheel to lose traction because it's in the air. Locking differential have a mechanism that will literally lock the axle together when you need it. In this case, both wheels receive equal power, so that the wheel with the most traction will always have the power. And now, you really want to go nuts? You can throw on your welding helmet. Well, I mean, that's enough honestly. If you are wearing a welding helmet and go where there is no welding, people are gonna think that you are nuts. But no, put on that welding helmet and all those spider gears together. Does anybody know why you are doing that? Anybody? Nobody? What is this? Just an up to speed thing. This doesn't work on my show. Well, it's for drifting. Loading diff keeps both the back wheel spinning in the same speed, and you don't have to buy a new rear axle. Welding the diff will minimize the loss from the drive shaft and makes sure that both wheels are always getting power. When you are drifting, the last thing you want is one of your tire to follow a different path from the other one. You want both of them burning the rubber. Loaded diff is a backyard fix to make oversteering easier and make it easier to go onto a drift. Torque vectoring differential, which I briefly mentioned when talking about LSDs, Grooveman are the most advanced and complicated, kind of like me. They use electronic clutches and a separate controller to forcibly throw the wheel on the inside of the turn, so they talk to the outer wheel powering the vehicle. Now all of this is the basic rear wheel drive vehicle, or a front wheel, okay, whatever, it's no judgment. But what about the four-wheel and door-wheel drive? So just so that the video is not 28 minutes basic, full-time four-wheel drive and all-wheel drive vehicles have differentials on both axle and one of the rear axle. They also have the third, most of them also had the third differential in the middle of the drivetrain. This allows the wheels to move at different speed and prevents drivetrain biting. So, all-wheel drive may have an open or limited slip differential in the middle, but the four-wheel drive has a locking differential for when the four-wheel drives are engaged. The center differential locks, and all of the four wheels get sent equal power. So that's basically the difference between the all-wheel and the four-wheel drive. But we'll come to that rate. Anyway, thanks for watching this episode on differential, guys. We can't do this without you. Subscribe to Infamous Motors Review. Hit the beautiful like button below. We got new shows coming up almost every week. Follow Infamous Motors Review on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can also follow me at a personal level at Jack Masharia on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. See you next time. Thank you.